this tool that we have of social media is a blessing and a curse, because it also exposes me to all of the people my age that just don't agree, that just will argue and argue and argue and not understand that like what we're trying to do is for people, and just no one's trying to hurt anyone. So I think there's a sense of being aware of the amount of people that we sort of have to convince before we can move forward.
Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast, presented by Planet of One. We're sharing stories and conversations, encouraging and empowering listeners to be bold, take action, and be your best self, so we may be the change we desire to see in this world. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Well, hi, Rosa. Welcome to the podcast. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am very happy to have you on the podcast. For sure, you are the youngest individual that I'm having the privilege of chatting with on this podcast. Would you let the audience know how old you are?
I am 16, turning 17 in like 3 months.
That's awesome. And I love having you on the podcast because you are one of the individuals in our family that I think of as the most conscientious, intelligent, and you make me think.
I bring up the questions.
You make me think. In a lot of ways, you have actually altered some of the things that I do, but we'll talk about that as we get further. But to start off, please introduce yourself to the audience so the listeners and the viewers know who you are, touch a little bit about your background so we can get to know you, and then we can touch on a lot of topics.
I'm Rosa Fletcher. I am half Lebanese, half American white mixture. I'm currently a high school student. I work with my lovely Aunt Bob all the time. She inspires me a lot. Sorry, my texts are going off. Thank you for your understanding. I am currently experimenting in my hobbies a lot, and I'm very interested in film and pursuing that. So
awesome. And just so that you guys know, my nieces call me Bob because I have a niece by the name of Rima. So they randomly picked the name Bob for me, and it's taken off, and their friends use that name too. So everybody refers to me as Bob, and it was started off as a joke, and it's worked out great. Rosa, you grew up in basically taking homeschooling.
mm-hmm.
And you made the decision when high school came around that you would actually attend school.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Now you're back in school. This is the first full year that you're actually in school.
Yeah.
What is that experience like for you, having been homeschooled most of your life? You had a ton of activities, but actually being in a school setting.
In the beginning, it was the hardest part was switching my learning style from sort of teaching myself and like reading a book and taking an assessment and then having someone tell me information and having to listen and like do assignments at a certain time. That was sort of the hardest part, or being like sitting there for like an hour and listening to someone talk and having to pay attention or you'll be behind, and being around people all day. So in the beginning, that was hard. And then once we switched to online, it was much easier for me, but I needed the social interaction again. I craved that sort of like human connection all day, and not staring at a computer for like hours on end in a Zoom meeting. But then my first full year, it was sort of towards the end, I felt that it was my first full year. I felt that I'd never done that much at once. And I think everyone did. I think everyone sort of forgot. Even my friends that were never online schooled before COVID, they were like, this is too much. Like, I think it helped us all sort of realize our limits and the flaws in our school system specifically.
So did it really impact your mental health and the way that you look at things?
Completely. I think I had to rethink my priorities in the sense of what classes I took and how much time I was spending just scrolling on my phone, like as a sort of trying to recharge, but realizing I wasn't recharging. And I think towards the end, like everyone I know, including myself, felt this insane amount of burnout, which I know that like I'm recovering from now, and like it can take so long to recover from. But I sort of realized my limits in the sense of taking too many classes and overexerting myself.
Very interesting. Have you found that your friends are going pretty much through the same thing as you are?
In different ways. I think it depends on what else they put on themselves. I know that I was one person that really put way too much on myself in one year. But a lot of them felt the similar situation of um, the burnout, and we're just all dealing with it in different ways, and people realized at different times. And like I know friends that had a worse first semester or a different second semester, or they like lost all their friends and that was worse or it was better. Like it just depends on the person's situation, I think.
And you touched on you being from two cultures
Mhm.
growing up. What was that like for you? Because I've had conversations with a few people that you know and some that you don't know, talking about that piece specifically. What was that like for you? Because honestly, and I said it before, I never thought about it, that you guys are also going through two different cultures that are immersed. So what's that like for you?
Growing up, I think it was incredibly difficult for me without even realizing the reason why, of just not fitting in either place. And especially because I don't look Arab for the Arab family, and then I don't look white for the white family. So it's like this like feeling of there's no middle ground other than Yasmin, but even Yasmin looked more Arab than I did, in my opinion. Um, so it's this sort of not knowing where the cultures mix together, and like having to sit in a group of people now, and if I say something in Arabic or if I say something about culture, getting a weird look and like having to explain myself or anything of that sort. It made me realize and look back on like when I was younger, when like my cousins would make a joke about me like not being Lebanese, and like how much that actually affected my being, because so much of a person's identity is their culture. And so having to sort of figure out a new culture of a mix between the two that doesn't even identify with like your parents is like a big deal for like a 6-year old to have to do.
How did you begin to learn to get yourself into your own way of being versus being, I'm Lebanese, I'm American, or whatever identity you pick? How did you start to choose what's right for you?
I think initially it was sort of a shutdown of culture, of just being like, I'm nothing, like there's nothing behind me. And then the more I talked to like Yasmin, and we sort of realized we had the same experiences because we never really talked about it before. And the more mixed people I met, like a lot of my friends now are mixed. And I started doing like a lot of like Instagram research. So I started following more mixed people and like hearing their stories, or like there's a poetry book of called Mixed Feelings, and it's like all poems about like mixed cultures. So it's just a matter of like finding other people who felt the same way, so it's less of like feeling isolated and more finding the community within the isolation. um that's sort of how I began to like realize that you can have more than one culture. It's not like I can't speak Arabic because I'm white. Like that's not how it works.
If you had to give advice to someone that's going through that, what would you say to them?
I think you have to find your people, and I think you have to realize that you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. Like you genuinely can just be without feeling like you have to be one thing or the other. And you can go to your family's house and not completely fit in because you know that there's people who understand you, and your family still loves you through that.
I think it's intriguing to me because we are close
Mhm.
and we've never ever addressed it. You've never brought it up. None of the Yasmin didn't bring it up. So it's in, I say that and I'm almost flabbergasted by my own thoughts of that, because so many kids go through things that even the people that love them are not aware enough that they're going through it.
I think for this specifically, it's a matter of, I know a lot of mixed people feel like they can't bring it up because that sort of suffering and like mental torment that being mixed puts you through doesn't compare to like racism. Like there's certain things that like you had to deal with culture shock of moving here that is not comparable to like the difference between like being mixed and having that. So it's a matter of like almost comparing your struggles and like thinking one is bigger than the other. So you don't bring it up. So you're just like, oh, mine is less bad, so I'm not going to talk about it. So it's not like a blame on anyone. It's just what you put up the block yourself.
Excellent observation, and a very good one for the young viewers to understand. Honestly, that's so key. There's so many things that I'd like to cover because I know you so well. But for me, what stands out the most about you is you're very intelligent. You're very organized. Yet at the same time, you have this compassion that's within you that we began to notice it at a young age. And what comes to mind is when you were young and your mom had asked you what you'd like for your birthday. And you said, I'd like to go feed the homeless. Do you remember what age that was for you?
I think I was around 11 or 12 for that.
And what do you think prompted you to think of that?
I genuinely believe it's because I never understood why my birthday was so like gift centered and so like, oh, you want this, let's go do this. And as much as I enjoyed that and as much as I enjoyed gifts, I was a kid, I think I weirdly prioritized the like family dinner we would have or something of that nature. So I wanted to take that time to give back to other people because it made me feel good. It helped others. It made sense in my mind to take what I didn't fully want and need for my birthday to feel special and give it to other people. Because I remember the year before that I spent the day to feeding the homeless. For my birthday party, I asked everyone to not bring something for me, but to bring something that we could donate to foster care and like bring a toy or something that we could donate. And I remember that being like insanely gratifying. So I wanted to do something of that nature again.
You opened up my eyes for sure, because having done that with you, it was such a great experience to really understand what others are going through, but to see you bring it up and have us really put ourselves out there, because it was your mom, myself, and a few of their friends too that joined us for this event. And you've done it a few times since.
Yeah. We would just have a day where I'd be like, let's just go get some bread and let's make some sandwiches and let's go. And yeah, I think it's just a nice way to spend your day and like hear their stories and like thank them for like making you open your eyes and see what you can learn from other people as well, because they're people. Like they have so much experience that you'll never get to experience.
I'm amazed by you, honestly, because how many young individuals understand the depth of this and really clearly understand that it is a human being. It's another human being, whatever their circumstances is. The next thing that always comes to mind with you is the environment. I've learned so much about the environment through you, especially when it comes to recycling or using too much water or a lot of things that we take for granted right here in this wonderful United States. You've opened up my eyes personally. How did you come to that perspective yourself because you read a lot. You know more information. I know that when things come up, I'm not going to have the answer. You will have the answer way before I do. So what got you to that?
I think for my entire generation, I don't want to speak for everyone, but like we were, especially the year that I was born, we were sort of born into social media and sort of being exposed to lots of things at once, and hearing a lot of issues, and hearing um, everything that's wrong with the world in like one sitting. And something that just always like felt wrong to me was that there wasn't enough about the environment. There wasn't enough people being like, hey, we're using way too much stuff, like the world can't keep up. And then also just through I do read, I did read, I haven't had much time anymore, but a lot of books, and just through the books, a few of them had mentioned the environment, so it piqued my interest. And I a lot of them, even just the ones that had like characters learning from nature or taking things from nature, I enjoyed the idea of learning from the earth. So I wanted to protect that.
And you're not shy about sharing with others a lot of these ideas.
Mhm.
I'm one of them. I've changed the habit of bottled water because of you.
Mhm.
So how much does it mean to you to go out there and spread the message for the environment and all of that?
It means everything. There's only so much that I as an individual can do, especially as someone who like can't vote, can't like really make decisions. Like it takes everyone to make a difference in this, because we're so far past the point that we should be. So I think being able to sit down with people who are going to listen, like you and like my parents, like it's those conversations, those learning from each other, or like especially older people in general, like you guys have watched the world shift so much in terms of like consumerism, and just the way that lifestyles are, or just like you moving from Lebanon, like lifestyles different there obviously than here. I think there's much to be learned from each other and what we can do for the environment, um, and how we can affect it in the future.
Honestly, because of you, even though I cared a lot about what happens to the human family, from you, I understood that what we're doing today is going to impact you, your kids, your grandkids, and so on and so on. So we really are responsible and we are all connected. And you
Mhm.
made that very clear in the simple things that we do every day and how much we overuse,
Mhm.
even down to the bar of soap that you were telling me about, the bar of shampoo. That blew my mind. Tell them about it because I didn't know that it even existed.
Like everyone uses bottled shampoo. Like you go to an aisle of shampoo and conditioner, it's all plastic bottles, like every single one. There's like 40 brands in one aisle. And then as I started doing more like research of personal eco-friendly habits, I found like bar shampoo, and I was like, ew, that's so gross. Why? Why is it gross? It's shampoo, it's your shampoo. Like it's a bar that doesn't need a plastic bottle that you can put in a reusable bag that like suds it up, and then you can wash your hair just like shampoo. um it's just something that you don't realize, because you walk into a store and you expect to get what you need to get, and you do. Like it's not something that you're supposed to realize. You have to like set out to realize it.
I think it's great that you're pointing these things out because a lot of people don't pay attention that all those bottles end up in our landfills. They don't go anywhere.
And not even just the where they end up, how they were made, what they were made with, who made them, where they were shipped from. Like there's a whole line of people before it even hits the store. Like it takes so much to take time out of your day to realize it's life is set up right now to be easy, to be convenient, so that you can just get what you need at the store and go to work. Or after work, you can be tired, but go to the store, get what you need, and then do this. It's set up so that you can work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. And it takes a second to like step out of that. And I was in a lucky enough position to where I didn't have to work, which not everyone is. And so I got to realize like the habits that you can set up from my age to make it to where when I'm 30 years old, I'm not completely ruining the planet.
You said it best. It's the habit of having it easy
Hmm.
that's creating the challenges that we are currently having,
Completely.
making it much harder. Um, you take on roles on your own of leadership.
Hmm.
Even when you started high school, how many clubs did you sign up for?
Probably like 8 or 9. Way too many clubs.
And now you've been in the YMCA
Mhm.
for how many years?
Since I moved to California, so 4 years, 3 years.
And now you're doing counselor training? Is that
Uh,
what you're doing?
yeah. So when you're a high schooler, for their summer camps, you're a counselor in training because you have to be graduated to be a counselor. So this is my last year of being a counselor in training.
And what's it like to be mentoring someone younger than you are?
I think in the way that the YMCA has it set up, at least in our area, it's insanely easy. It's you get to learn from people. I've learned from so many people in the past few years of how to just like live my life, or how to mentor other people without even feeling like mentoring. Um, it's as simple as just like hearing a kid, or just like listening to them. And if they like something, is one thing I learned through doing this is like when a kid is like playing and they're like, stop, stop, just stop. Like it's something that a lot of kids don't get the luxury of because they're a kid. So they just like expect people to just like keep going. But it's something that no one, if someone's saying stop, you wouldn't want someone to keep going. It's little lessons like that that you can pick up on from other people that you look up to, just to be a person that kids can look up to and come to and just have fun with sometimes.
And then you also chose some clubs at school that are government type of clubs.
That's not a club. It's called Youth in Government. It's through the
Mm.
YMCA also. And it's a mock California government. So each area represents like a local government. And then we come together 3 times a year and we act as like government meetings. So we have like a court, and I'm usually a committee chair, so I help with bills. And my first year, we wrote a bill for voting in elections, and you work to get it passed through the House and the Senate, um, to then get passed by our youth governor. And then the last 2 years, I was Senate co-chair, so I was leading the meetings to help amend bills to get them passed.
What's that experience like for you?
Um, well, it's been online. It's just insanely fun. Like I wasn't a person that was interested in government at all. And then I learned so much in the inner workings and the power that it has. And um, getting together with like a group of like 3,000 kids in California, and just like feeling the power of people your age, and the passion people have, or just we have a dance every year. So just like literally being stupid with them is just um incredibly like empowering for when you come back home.
And now this is going to be your senior year this coming year.
Mhm.
So you were taking the time to actually choose colleges.
Yes.
I would love for you to tell them how you went through that process, because that in itself blew my mind.
Well, I had started thinking about college when I was in like 5th grade, like way too early. I was like, I am gonna go to Yale. That is where I'll be. um, and then I focused on Yale for like a while. And then my sophomore year, in the midst of COVID, I had a PowerPoint making phase. So I decided to make a PowerPoint of all the colleges I was interested in and all the majors I was interested in, and where those majors could lead and what jobs I could get from that degree. So I made a 27-page PowerPoint on my college choices.
And I did go through that and watch it with you. That was quite spectacular, the way that you broke it down. Elaborate on it. So if there's another individual out there that's looking for them to narrow it down, take them through that process a little bit.
So I had my very large set of majors that I was interested in, including environmental science and journalism and humanities and film. And then I was looking up like best colleges for this, best colleges for that. And I would just scroll through the list and pick areas that I enjoyed or pick campuses that were pretty. And then I put it in the PowerPoint, and then I decided to go on and pick pictures of what I would want my life to look like if I went there and put a slide on that. Um, and then I scrapped all of them, and now I want to go to school in London.
You just came back from London this summer. You actually went and looked at some schools there.
I did. I looked at 7 schools while I was there, because you can apply to 5. And I picked my favorite, and now I'm set on that one.
Now, what's the draw to actually go to London versus going right here in the States?
There's I had to learn a lot more about the process because it's not similar to the college system in the US. So I think a lot of what the work was is the research to get the resources to do it. But it's a pretty transparent system. So it's a matter of like a personal statement in accordance to your subject area, and then a reference letter. And then most schools will ask for other things. So for mine, I need a portfolio. Sometimes they ask for your transcript or SAT scores, something of that nature.
Why did you pick London?
I felt it was a good place that you can travel from. So you can be in that spot and take a train to France. And also for film, they have their separate, complete film industry that's not LA. And I will get a completely different education than people that go to a school like USC or UCLA. Not that there's anything wrong with that education, it's just different. And then my dad said today at the dinner table that by 2025, the UK film industry is going to need like 25,000 new workers. So
right timing then for you.
I graduate 2026. So, it's also 3 years instead of 4, which I think is very
How important is travel for you?
Completely. It's something that no matter what I wanted to do, I knew that travel had to be a part of it because I'm so adamant about learning from different cultures and different people. And I think if you're stuck in one place for so long, you sort of get tunnel vision.
That is true. We definitely share that perspective that if we don't have the opportunity to go to different places, we never grow into becoming better human beings. Had we not moved from Lebanon to the United States, I would not be as open-minded in my ways as I would have been staying in Lebanon. So definitely visiting cultures, different countries in different areas definitely gives you that perspective of openness a lot more. Why the film industry? Obviously, your sister is into acting and you got a lot of friends, but what's the draw and the pull for you for that specific field?
It's the fact that it's one of the biggest forms of media right now. And not that I would change it if it wasn't, but it's a way that I can say exactly what I mean and articulate it in a way that's easy for me to say. Because when I was younger, like when I started writing for the first time in script format, it was the only way that I could really get out what I was feeling because I was struggling so hard to articulate my feelings. So it was an outlet. And then to take that outlet and then be able to show people how I visualize it and then have it hit home for other people is insanely important to me. And no matter what I'm saying, even if it's a comedy film, to just make people take a break from their day, it's a way to get it out there.
So it's a way for you to get some of your messages and your thoughts out into the world.
Even
a
if
lot better.
People see it and one of them relates with it, I got what I needed out and that person got what they needed out. And that's what's important to me.
What is the toughest thing right now as you're transitioning from current year to senior year, and then you know that more than likely by next year you will be out of the United States at least for 3 years? What is the toughest thing for you right now?
I think currently it's the length of time between like now and leaving. because it's not like I can be like, oh, I'll see you soon. Like I'm gonna leave now. It's a matter of telling so many people in a year, in like a few months, I'm gonna be gone. And then just having to sort of know that that decision isn't even final. And then dealing with the fact that like the people that I'm around currently in like a year and a half, I might not talk to. It's just sort of putting that thought aside and just like living in the moment while also simultaneously preparing and applying to my future. So it's a hard mix of like living in the moment while also preparing for the future.
How did you become so enlightened in the way that you're living your life? Because not a lot of young individuals take the opportunity to really delve deep into what's coming next for them and still live in the moment. How did you develop that, Rosa? Do you know how?
I the only thing I could think of is that I watched everyone. I watched I'm the youngest. So I just watched everyone make mistakes and learn from them. And I watched you grow into who you are. And I watched my parents grow into who they are, and my sister and my all my cousins. And I watched so many movies and I read so many books of characters like growing into themselves. And I think I took something from everyone and I became the ideas that people had. I took those things that I thought were important and put them into how I want to live. And I knew from watching that I didn't want to live my life a certain way. And that's where I started, was the part that I don't want to be at, to move to where I want to be at.
Nice. Do you like being from two different cultures now that you've learned to accept a lot of it?
I would say yes. I think it provides a broader sense of self than just being from one culture. I think there's still things I have to deal with within it. But I think I'm happy for what I've gone through because how much it's taught me.
And how have you been able to find your friends? Because you were homeschooled for such a long period, you are pretty social, to be honest. How did you become good at finding friends? Because a lot of individuals that are usually secluded or are not in social settings have a really hard time.
I sort of forced myself to be social because
Mm.
most of my friends would consider me an introvert, even though I'm with people all the time. Um, it's just a matter of sort of being around enough people and knowing I know myself so well that it attracts people in, and it attracts similar people and sometimes very different people. And it's a matter of knowing enough people and finding the people that you really trust. So as many people as I'm around all the time, there's only a few that I genuinely trust and like know really well. So I think it's just a matter of being trial and error.
And if I gave you a magic wand and said, Rosa, you could make anything occur in your life right now, would you have something that you go, this is what I would like to happen right now?
It would be more of a worldly thing than a personal thing. I think I would I think I would reverse the Roe v. Wade decision, or focus more on the environment and help fast fashion workers, or there's just so many issues that need to be solved that my little life that doesn't need a magic wand to keep things happening. Things will happen, a magic wand or not.
I love that you're saying that because there are a lot of challenges in the world
Mhm.
and there are a lot of opportunities in the world. And the way that you look at them is to keep moving forward, because definitely for the United States, the current challenge with our system has impacted everyone.
Mhm.
But getting angry about it or any of that perspective is not going to solve anything. So you, as the young generation that it impacts the most, how do you feel that we can actually move forward beyond it? Because I know that there's an answer. I know there's a great answer out there.
I don't know if I have the answer.
An answer,
I
or
think
what you think.
using our feelings of anger and of passion are sort of leading us to where we need to be. And we've realized so many issues, like so many people have watched and seen what people are doing wrong. And I think it's a matter of we have this tool that can spread information instantly. And so many people are using it. And I hope at least that once my generation is in the positions of power, we can make much better decisions. But even then, there's going to be something else to work on. Like, we're never going to be completely stagnant. I think there will constantly be things to change and things to work on. Well, hopefully they are less impactful on each individual as they are now in the US decisions. So I think it's a matter of my generation's anger and sort of being sick of everything that's going on because we've heard about it. I have heard about so many issues. I was born 4 years after 9/11. Like, so many things have been toppled on my generation. Well, we're just supposed to like listen to it. Like, that's not what we're gonna do. We're gonna act and change it.
I've had a conversation with a friend of ours that you know, Patrick Carney, and it feels like this generation is back to the 60s generation of making things move forward in love.
Mhm.
And that's what it feels like to us. Is that what it feels like to you guys and you and your friends?
In a way, I think my friends definitely, I feel like we're all sort of moving forward for love and like pushing for what we want in love and hope for people. But I also know that this tool that we have of social media is a blessing and a curse because it also exposes me to all of the people my age that just don't agree, that just will argue and argue and argue and not understand that like what we're trying to do is for people and just no one's trying to hurt anyone. So I think there's a sense of being aware of the amount of people that we sort of have to convince before we can move forward.
That's been going around since the beginning of time, since the beginning of man. So that piece will continue to be, but the way that you handle it and the way that I see you handle things is the calmer version, the more, let me hear you out first, and then this is what I think, which is a beautiful perspective as you guys continue to move forward.
Mhm.
Rosa, what do you do for fun? Because we talked about so many things that are heavy in a sense, but also what do you do for fun?
I listen to music, I hang out with my friends, I sleep a lot. I do pottery.
Hmm?
I read, like I said. Um, I think I just try a lot of things. I know when to stop. I know when to put my phone down. Even recently with everything that's been going on, I know that like I can't do anything to an extent. Like, I can't handle it all. It's not all on my shoulders. So even with my friends, I'll be like, okay, guys, we're not talking about it. Let's make some jokes. Let's eat a cupcake.
And you're a writer, you love to write.
Mhm.
Have you written anything that is going to be created into a book or or something? Or what's the purpose of your writing?
I wrote, well, my purpose is just for me to get what I'm feeling out
Nice.
genuinely. Wherever it goes after that is whatever wherever I want it to go or wherever it's meant to go. But most recently, I wrote a short based on a journal entry that I wrote, and I'm hoping to produce that later this summer or later this year. Hopefully with an all-woman team. That's the goal. Um, and that's just for whoever needs it, whoever wants to hear it. If it's just me, if it's just that my mind was put at peace because put it out visually, because I sort of need that like let go of the information and I need people to see what I saw visually while writing it and how I was feeling in it, then that's all it is.
Rosa, if I said to you, give advice to someone who's 14, 2 years younger than you, If you recall what you were like at 14, what advice might you give that person?
Really focus on yourself.
Mm.
People are going to come in and out. Take time to be alone. As isolating as it can feel, you need to take the time to understand your emotions with and without other people, because again, people are going to come in and out.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. Is there anything that you'd like to say that I may not have asked you so we don't get off this podcast and you go, oh no, Rima didn't mention this? Anything?
We covered a lot. I know that you put me back on if I ever felt like I had more to say.
Yes, I would actually. And Rosa, what's the best way for people to keep up with you, follow you? What's the best place?
Probably my Instagram, which is at Rosa.Fletcher. That's usually where I keep up with things. Yeah.
Are you still doing photography?
That's mainly what my Instagram is. I don't really take photos of myself. I prefer to um, sort of, again, have other people see what I'm seeing visually. So it's less of I'm making it a hobby rather than a photography. I'm a photographer. I'm just having fun with it.
And you love to bake.
Mm-hmm.
You considered at one point actually becoming a baker. Is that something that you would still pursue?
Completely. Right now, I hope that after I graduate from my 3 years in London, I'm going to take some time off and make some money, hopefully. And then I want to still pursue a 6-month pastry program in France.
I'm looking forward to that myself so I can eat all the great pastries you make.
You can live with me.
I love that. Rosa, thank you. Thank you for being candid. I am always, always intrigued and appreciative of who you are, because you always go above and beyond of the depth of the information that you know, and I love you. Thank you for being with me tonight.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to learn so much from you, Bob.
Thank you. And to our listeners, remember, guys, our attitude determines our altitude in life. Pay attention to your attitude. That is the one thing that will impact how we live and how we grow. Thank you for being with us, and we will see you in the next episode.